show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Let's go. Welcome to another Mastering Our Business Brainstorming Session. You already know how we like to do it. If you're already part of the M.O.B community, man, throw them fire signs in the chat. You already know how we like to come together every single Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Hey, man, it's time to brainstorm. Let's go, man. It's time to get that bag. Let's get closer to, accomplishing our dreams, our goals. So it's just another day, man, to work on generational wealth, figuring out different ways to attain some of the things that we're trying to do. Really, first of all, I really just want to thank everybody who really been tapping in with us and really just tuning in with us all year, every single week. We've been having so many special guests from different backgrounds, dropping so many different gems. Speaking of that, you can go on M.O.B TV on masteringOurBusiness.com/MOBTV. Check out some of the recaps. Check out some of these gems, man. We got some a lot of great gems that we drop, for free, that you can get right on the recap. So make sure you guys check out M.O.B TV. And along with that, make sure you guys download the Enterprise Theater channel on Roku TV as well. We have the 6 million viewers. Shout out to our partners. Shout out to our partners and everybody that's just been, a part of that movement and, really showcasing, their story. That's what it's all about, telling these stories. And once we tell all these stories, bringing them all together and just seeing how all of these different stories come together. And we were, we get to a point where we realize that we all in the same boat, at the end of the day. We all, chasing the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And sometimes that's different, for different people. Some people is in it for the money, some people is in it for the experience, some people is in it, for, the mental benefits of just, being 100% sustainable and being able to do what you want to do without having somebody on your back. That's what, that's really the real American dream at the end of the day, being able to, push that button whenever you want. Just move at your own accord, but at the same time, helping each other out. That's really like the main goal and the main objective. At the end of the day, if you're not providing a service for the next person, it's probably going to be a harder journey for you. So at the end of the day, you always want to make sure that we provide some type of value. And that's what we want to do at the M.O.B, with the community that we've been building, figuring out different ways and going over different strategies, going over different gems, going over different information, because information is key. Information is power. So it's always good to have those different resources and have those different examples, because a lot of these things that we're going over, man, I wish I would have had these examples when I was coming up. But it'd be like that. But we're here now, so we're talking about financial literacy. We're talking about business credit. We're talking about building generational wealth and passive income. Building your legacy and doing something that you love to do. At the end of the day, not having to go into a job that you hate. So that's what we're doing, man. We're figuring out how to get outside that matrix. And we got the cheat code. It's all about passing it along at the end of the day. So today I'm excited. We got another special guest for you guys. But first, I got a few announcements that I want to go over. Speaking of business credit, we did just drop our new ebook, Business Credit Ain't Scary, the guide to get into the bag legally. Because we really want to make sure that you guys are playing this game, man. As long as you know the rules, you can play the game. So it's all about dusting off and getting some information. We dropped a lot of gems all in one ebook. So we just wanted something that was affordable for you guys to be able to take and get some real value out of it. So hey, if you apply the information, you will see where it takes you. So we want to make sure that you guys are getting this information and getting access to business funding, making sure that your business and your personal credit is where it needs to be. And making sure that you understand what that means at the end of the day, because there's so many things that comes with, building a credit report, utilizing credit, utilizing, your debt, and making sure that you have, more good debt than bad debt. And that's something that we talk about as well, and that we have talked about on our brainstorming sessions as well in the past, good debt versus bad debt. And just knowing the ins and outs when it comes to, utilizing these different funding institutions like banks and credit unions and different things like that. So we dropping a lot of jewels. I want you guys to get out there and get that bag, man. The more you guys are prospering, the more that we, get the, brag on you guys. So definitely, guys, check out that ebook. Check out our resource center in general. We got a lot of different resources on there. We have resources to, help you build your credit or report. If you need to check and see what your reports are on the business side, on the personal side. We also have tools on there as well for that. We have a few grants on there as well. Shout out to Skip. They've been, so wonderful every week, giving different people opportunities to get funded every single Tuesday and Fridays. So shout out to them. We've been working with them probably for the last year now. It's time going by quick. So shout out to them. They've been doing a lot of great things for a lot of business owners. Even if you don't have a business, you can actually join their community and qualify for a few grants that they have as well. But yeah, for the most part, definitely check out our resource center. Right on our homepage, right on masternourbusiness.com. You can scroll all the way down. You'll see our ebooks that we have on there. You'll see some of the credit builder applications that we have on there. They are affiliate links when you click on there as well. So when you click to get started, they will give you certain perks and kickbacks and different things like that. So hey, take advantage, man. I know everybody needs as much funding as we possibly can get. So speaking of that, man, if you live with us, if you need some funding, or if you can just use some extra capital, man, for your business or for a project that you're working on, hey, throw the fire signs, throw the money signs in the chat. Let me see something real quick. Let's see who tapped in with us live. Throw the money signs in the chat if you could use some more funding. That should be everybody tapped in with us. Let's go. Let's go, let's go, let's go. I also get a lot of people that ask us about different events and activities that we have going on. We got a lot of great opportunities still coming up. We're in the middle of the summer. We got some great things still coming up for you guys this summer. So you can check out masternourbusiness.com/events. If you want to stay up to date, or you can just subscribe to our mailing list. We try to keep you guys as up to date as possible. We got so much coming up. We've just been having so much fun doing this summer, man. Especially with our webinars, even helping the kids, and helping some people get funded. Helping, we've been having some fun campaigns that we've been overseeing. Shout out to Serenity Nail Polish. We've been doing a lot with them, based out of New York. Shout out to Philosophy LLC, another one of our M.O.B members based out of Georgia. And man, many more, man. We've been doing a lot of great campaigns, a lot of fun campaigns. Shout out to everybody who's been, booking our services as well, as far as our video and audio services. So if you have a special event or activity that you want covered, we got you covered on that. If you need social media and marketing services, we have a special team that we're going to look you up with. As well as if you just want to automate your business in general. And we've been trying to put you guys hit, man. AI is here. We have a directory of over 100 AI tools that we're using currently, and that we're pretty much helping you guys manage as well. So if you need, if you're just looking to automate your business 100%, definitely contact us and sign up for some of our programs as well, so we can get you connected with the right team. And then get you automated, man. That's the future. That's really where it's at next. Figuring out different ways you can automate your business. Matter of fact, real quick, let me actually hit you guys with today's icebreaker question. So, what is one challenge that you have building credit? Let's go. Let's see some answers in the chat. What's one challenge that you guys have building credit? Whether it's business, or your personal credit. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. And also, if you tapped in live with us, man, make sure you guys drop your websites. Make sure you guys post your social medias. Make sure you guys introduce yourselves, man. It's all about building a community. You might have somebody right in the chat that you can link up with and partner up with on some great things. It might be somebody in the community that have a resource or a service that you might need as well. So make sure you guys introduce yourself, post your websites, post your social medias, post what you do. Let's go. And again, make sure you guys follow, like, and subscribe, whether you watching in or tuning in on YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok. Make sure you guys like, follow, and subscribe. Make sure you guys tap that screen. Give us as much love as possible, man. We do this for you guys at the end of the day, so we need as much love as possible. And spread as much word as possible, especially if you know any business owners in your area. If you're friends with any business owners, share this live with them. All right, all right, all right. I see you guys. I see you guys. Especially on TikTok, man. You guys showing so much love, man. Shout out to you guys. Let's go, let's go, let's go. We brainstorming, we brainstorming. Again, you guys. Let me actually put the icebreaker question back on the screen for you guys. What's one challenge you have building your credit? So real quick, while you guys actually giving your answers, I actually want to bring up our special guest. Go ahead and I know I muted. I muted you. Go ahead and unmute yourself real quick, Clint. I'm gonna bring you up to the main stage. So real quick, I want you guys to help us welcome our special guest, Adia. What's going on, Queen? What's going on? Can you hear me? Go ahead and unmute yourself. I muted you earlier.
All right, I think I got it there. How are you?
I'm blessed. I'm blessed. I'm blessed. How you doing? How you doing? For the people that don't know, that's under a rock, introduce yourself. Let the people know what you do, and let them know what you got coming up next.
Well, certainly. So my name is Adia Hunt, and I am a beekeeper. So yes, I am that person that has boxes and boxes of bugs in my backyard and other properties around where I live here in the St. Louis metro area. I've been doing beekeeping since about 2019. Around that same time, I went to organic farming school and got my certificate um, in organic farming. And additionally, around that time, a couple years later, I started my work on grad school. I'm on hiatus right now and getting a master's in natural resources and environmental sciences. So yeah, I've certainly kind of grew up as one of those kids that loved to be outside, no matter where I was, and it just seemed kind of like a natural fit to make beekeeping my fun job that hopefully I will transition into a full-time job in the next couple of years. So
I love that. I love that. So, what's some of the things that you feel like, um, you know, what's some of the problems that you feel like you will be covering that you can really just kind of offer some assistance with when it comes to the environment and just how things are going right now?
yeah, I think that from kind of an entrepreneurial perspective, beekeeping is unique. There aren't a lot of beekeepers that look like me, but the number is certainly growing, and I'm happy about that. I would say one of the biggest challenges if you're a beekeeper and you're looking to expand for honey production, which is mainly where my income streams come from, is finding land. Land can be a challenging um, commodity to come by, but it is one that if you have just a little bit, you can beekeep. If you have friends that have land and there's some municipalities and areas that they live in don't have any restrictions around being a beekeeper, you can easily get started there too. So I would say land is kind of one of the biggest barriers, but there's certainly ways that you can work around it.
Well, that's dope. That's dope. So, what some of the restrictions would you have when it comes to beekeeping? I never really thought about that. What's for the people that for somebody that already may have the land or have access to land. What's some of the restrictions that they should be looking for?
Yeah, so I would say some of the main restrictions you'd want to look for is if you live in an area with an HOA. HOAs will have restrictions against like noxious plants or noxious insects, will be the clauses. Sometimes for municipalities, you have to be zoned for rural in order to be able to keep bees. Where I reside, bees are considered livestock. So that's in the same category as cattle and sheep and chickens and ducks and goats. So there's certainly lots of things that kind of go hand in hand with having livestock. Um, so those are some of the things you'd want to check for. From a less formal perspective, if this is something that you'd want to get into, and you do find that where you reside, you're able to have bees, you do want to consult with your neighbors on all four sides of you, just to, as a way of promoting goodwill and ask if they have any concerns. That way you can try to address those and it doesn't become a hindrance down the road because they're like, wait a second, there's a box of 50,000 insects in your yard. You didn't talk to me about this. So certainly the municipality codes, certainly zoning is another one. And also too, just make sure that you're bringing other people who are going to be around those bees in, so that way they're aware.
That's dope. I think you're the first beekeeper. Like, I work with a lot of farmers, but I never met a beekeeper before. That's super dope, and I never thought about that. About bees being the same thing as or being considered livestock. I definitely have some people that I would love to link you up with. Like I said, we work with a lot of different farmers, mostly in the Georgia area, but we'll figure out a way to make that happen. We got a few partners that have access to land. So, what's some of the ways that I know? Of course, you said you mentioned production. What's some of the ways that you can really capitalize off of beekeeping? I know you can sell the honey, but what's that process like?
So it started out, I'll say, more as a passion project, and because I talked about how much I enjoyed it and my struggles with it, that kind of acted as inroads for me to find ways to sell honey. So obviously, of course, people love honey. You can go to the store and get it, but it's certainly much tastier if you get it from a local beekeeper. And so, what got me started was going to local restaurants with samples and asking if they were interested in tasting it, giving them a price list. I had to do a lot of research on kind of how to price honey, so that way I was pricing competitively. You can go to the farmer's market and see that somebody sells it for either way cheaper or way more expensive than maybe what you had planned on. And of course, you don't want to like create this race to the bottom with the cost. So you can always, if you're selling honey or any other sort of like produce products, you can look at the USDA website and they will tell you what the going rate is for wholesale prices on things. So
I love that. I love that. You spoke on something that was really key that spoke out to me. It's something that we talk about in our modules, which is market research. And it's something that that comes up every single time we talk about anything. For the most part, I think it's just a vital process. When it comes to building any type of thing. What's some more strategies that you took when it came to doing your market research, so you could price competitively?
yeah, so I think the main thing was to one, look at the farmers markets around because that is usually how most beekeepers will sell. I also kind of looked at when I was at farmers markets, looking at what people have a lot of product of. And assuming that, like, if you have a whole bunch of 8-ounce honey jars there, then that's probably what's not selling. Another thing too is to look at other avenues where maybe you don't expect that people might be wanting honey. So for a long time, I'd had a partnership with a local brewery. They made, of course, these really kind of cool and different um, Pilsner beers. And one year they bought about a gallon of honey, which is about 12 pounds for me. And they use that to make their beer. And so that got me kind of in the door with a lot of people who produce like alcoholic products. So I'm aware and in touch with other breweries. I was contacted by a winery once. So it's looking in the places that you don't necessarily think about when you think about who wants honey. It's also trying to think about what is different about my product that will help me stand out. So for example, I can say a million times I'm really big on the environment. I love making sure that I'm doing the best for the planet. But so you're not going to see me sell honey in plastic bottles. I always use glass. And that to me is one of those little things. Yes, it costs certainly more for me up front, but it seems like people that buy my honey appreciate. They're like, oh, I can reuse this glass. I also offer a buyback program for jars, so they're pretty easy to sanitize. So that's one way that I keep my costs low, and I don't have to worry about getting my jars shipped in from the East Coast because I usually have repeat customers. Easy to sanitize the jars with like 70% alcohol, and then relabel them and refill them. So those are those are some of the things that I think are important when looking at market research because um, again, there's especially I think once you get past suburban and kind of into like the rural space, there are so many people that keep bees. And you kind of can see where the market is flooded, if you will, with so much honey or so many beekeepers. And so that's really not the market that you'd want to be in. So when I was doing market research, I went to about 6 or 7 farmers markets around the city. And what I noticed is that some had one beekeeper, but most of them had 5. Now, what that told me is that if there's 5 beekeepers at one market, then that means they're really competing head to head against each other. Um, a market is also kind of another area where things could be a little difficult. You do have to pay up front. You might have to pay for 6 months worth of that space, which can be upwards of a couple $1,000s. You might not be able to get out there every weekend. It's also a lot of prep to do retail work like that because you've got to make sure that you get all your product there, you get there early, you have, kind of enough cash on hand, all of your Square stuff is set up. So that to me seemed like, okay, I'll try it. And I tried it once and I did not like it. And so from there, I told myself, what are my other options? I want to keep beekeeping. I'd had this plan to have a certain number of hives so that way I would have a lot of honey available. And I thought wholesale would be nice. So once I had talked to the brewery that used the honey for beer, and I think mead and a couple other things, I thought, well, who else might want a whole bunch of honey at once instead of maybe like one little like 1 pound jar?
Right.
And so from there, that's really where I thought, okay, if I will save on cost if I can find someone to buy it wholesale. And so it just so happened that while I was teaching a class at a local farm school, I met the head of a food pantry in the area that makes sure that they bring food that is fresh and healthy to people who maybe live in food deserts or who are experiencing food apartheid. And they make sure that all of the goods, all of the produce, the honey, is sold at a reasonable price so that it's accessible to everyone. And so I'm one of their wholesale producers now, which is I'll stop for a minute after I say this, but wholesale was better for me because it meant that there were less costs for me.
Yeah.
If someone is going to buy like a bunch of honey, I can discount it slightly, but still make a pretty good margin on it. But I also don't have to spend as much time for bottling because they might want quart jars, and that's a lot easier to do than those little itty bitty jars you might see elsewhere. So,
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. So I talk about automation a lot. I've been talking about AI. How are you incorporating AI into what you're doing right now?
I would say I'm literally not, only because of just the nature of the work. It is something that I really enjoy. And so I would have a hard time thinking of automating this in a way that I guess is where I would be removed from it, you know? I don't want to ever have a point where I can't go out and look at the bees and see how they're doing and check on them. So automation doesn't really fit, I would say, into kind of my plan right now. I wouldn't rule it out for the future, just as long as it doesn't kind of ruin the relationship that I have as, someone that loves the environment. So will it ever come down to that? Was the Black Mirror episode that people like to tell me about where there were machine bees? I hope not.
Oh, man.
So hopefully I can stave off some automation and AI for a while.
Right.
Um, and to that, I would just add that some things that people really like about my honey is that I am small batch comparatively. The honey that you would get at your grocery store has probably been trucked in from China and Singapore and Brazil, and you have no idea how old it is. But if you're buying honey from me, more than likely is probably like 3 or 4 weeks old. So it's super fresh, but it's also local. And I also know that I don't use any harsh chemicals at all. So,
I love that. It's so refreshing to see somebody that's actually passionate about what they do. I think that's so important. When it comes to building anything, we talk about that a lot. So that's super dope. And you sound like me, when it comes to the automation, even though we still use AI in certain things, for as maybe some type of response or an email, some created outlines, different things like that. Planning, mostly planning, organizing. But that was the same thing that I was saying. Because we still so hands on. Especially when you have a community, you have to be hands on. Every single relationship is so different. Everybody is different and come from different backgrounds. Especially within our family. So we try to make sure that we stay as hands on as possible. But still make sure that we figure out. Definitely lately, just figuring out what areas can we really automate, while still staying hands on and doing the stuff that we really want to do, like the community engagement and stuff like that. Real quick, speaking of, just going out, and touching the people, what do you feel like is, a big mistake most entrepreneurs make when it comes to building a brand? And how do you think they can fix it?
so I think probably one of the biggest mistakes you can make as an entrepreneur is that your success will be quick. Most of the time, it will take some time. And so that's where you kind of have to make your mind up to stand 10 toes down and say, this is important to me. This is what I want to do. If it doesn't work out that first year, have a strategy. Um, I could have easily said, well, I have all this honey. What am I going to do with it? And I knew I didn't want to go to a farmer's market. What did I do? I did something that I think probably a lot of beekeepers do inadvertently. But one day after I checked on the bees, I was still in my beekeeper suit and I went to the supermarket. And you'd be surprised how many people stopped me and said, do you have honey now? I'm like, yes, I'm gonna try. You can, so that was an unconventional way to like market. But it's certainly having a backup plan, right? So if you, for example, I sell liquid honey, I sell honeycomb, I sell what's called chunk honey, where there's a piece of honeycomb in a jar of liquid honey. And then I sell creamed or whipped honey. Sometimes the condition of the honey makes it granulate, which doesn't change the quality, it just changes the texture. Usually that's what honey gets whipped or cream, and that's a big seller around Thanksgiving and Christmas time. So I think to kind of button it up, some of the biggest mistakes that you can make as an entrepreneur are thinking that you have something that people want and it's automatically going to be successful. There's a lot of work and planning and strategizing that you should do, because usually the path to success is certainly not linear. Instead of it being this one straight line, it's usually full of twists and turns and curves. So it's good to have a backup plan and strategy. Like every year, I say to myself, I want to make sure I have this many hives that are healthy in the first quarter of the year. I want to catch a certain amount of swarms, which is a very high variable. But then I also think, especially around this time of year, what am I going to do to make sure that all of my hives go into the winter as healthy as possible? Because they'll come out a lot stronger next spring.
I love that. I love that. So, real quick, I really want to touch on something that's a hot topic, especially with smaller businesses. What's the most overlooked funding opportunities for small business owners, especially in underserved communities? What do you feel like is the best hubs for funding?
That's a good question. Let me think about that. The best source of funding. I would say grants. However, um, grants are very hard to come by, especially if you're not like a cattle farmer or a produce farmer. They're really, really hard for them. So they're even harder for beekeepers. Um, I think so. Indirectly, I think one of the overlooked ways of funding is probably just going to the library, getting online and finding out like ways to save money, ways to invest a little bit less so that way you get kind of a return on it. But I think that's a great question. I don't know of any other sources that are really great if you're just starting out, other than trying to do the thing where you're avoiding like spending a lot. So
Yeah, I mean, bootstrapping is what we all know when we first, touch bases. This is something that I even with myself, my first couple companies, hey, we had to bootstrap it. We had to lace up the boots in any way possible and figure out, and that's why we're doing what we're doing now is putting out the information because it is so many different platforms, so many different ways. We just don't know about it, or we're just most of it is just too busy to go figure those different ways out. So that's one of the reasons why we just published business credit ain't scary because a lot of people it's when it comes to finance, when it comes to credit, when it comes to debt, when it comes to these things, it becomes scary because of the stigmas that's behind it. So yeah, man, I think that's super important for us to really tap in. And you touched on something super important. Do your research. Go out there. It's so many different platforms and foundations out there. All you got to do is research it. Take some time out of your day. Get on that computer. And now you got it right in your palm of your hand. It's
mhm.
really important to take out the time to go research. So real quick, I want to talk about networking and partnerships. What makes a collaboration or a partnership truly mutually beneficial in business?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is making sure that that business partner that you are wanting to work with is aligned with your values. So the brewery that I talked about that I worked with, they were very for a lot of the beliefs that I have. They proudly made sure that there were ways to feed people in their community. They work to help lots of other small Black farmers in the area by buying different produce from them. They very loudly supported the whole Black Lives Matter movement, and that was really important to me. So I think alignment is certainly one piece that's important when you're looking to collaborate. And I would also say too, when it comes to networking, it's always staying ready so that you don't have to get ready. Like for example, I met your acquaintance Chrissy last week while I was working at one of the food pantry stops that I talked about earlier. And I had just run out of business cards, which please don't do. That's not a good thing. Um, but the way I set up my presentation table drew people in. I had a lot of people come and talk and say, "Oh, well, that's your honey they're selling. That's really great." And that was how I got in touch with her. And so as soon as she told me about mastering our business, I was like, well, that sounds like something I'd be interested in being a part of and helping out with. So I kind of was thinking right away, like, well, if she asks me to speak, here are the things I can talk to. If she invites me to collaborate, here are the things that I could work on. So it's certainly also making sure that you stay ready, but I think it's also putting yourself in places where it's gonna be where the outcome is kind of conducive to what you're looking for. If that makes sense. So um, trying to think of a good example. So for a lot of the time that I'm a beekeeper, I also taught part-time at some local farm schools. And inadvertently, people who took my classes on, getting started with your first year garden or identifying, beneficial pollinators and bugs in your backyard, those were the people who ended up following up and they're like, do you have honey? Do you have lip balm, beard balm, all these other products that you can make with stuff from the hives? And that is really kind of where I think the collaboration starts. So it's like, don't overlook like whoever's closest to you because, everybody has the possibility to help you get what you're doing going. You just got to make sure you're ready and you're out there. So
Ooh, super gem, super gem. Hey, everybody on the chat, if you live with us still, type ready in the chat. Put ready in the chat. I love that. Definitely gotta stay ready at all times. You just never know who you might be able to run into. And it's all God, it's all divine time. At the end of the
mhm.
day, you have to be ready for whatever he throw at you, and be able to take it full force. And take advantage, full advantage of these different relationships, like you said, work, figure out, who can be beneficial right around you. It might be somebody that you've known for years that you probably just didn't think about. And I think being intentional is super important when it comes to any type of partnership, any type of relationship in general. I always like to say, and tell people it's all about, being all hands on deck, not just take, but give as well. So
Right.
figure, how we can strengthen this relationship and strengthen each other. Super important. I like to touch on that because, I come from, when you're in business, especially in the industries that I've been in, you hear this collaboration word a lot, and to be quite frank, it don't always be true collaboration. And I always found ourselves, giving a little bit more than what we was receiving in these certain relations until I started to learn to be intentional, and learn how to also identify what you need to ask for help on, what you need delegation on. Super important because sometimes you just don't know, and that puts you in a position. And I just had the same conversation with one of my partners, like, hey, maybe that, and they was kind of feeling some type of way about somebody not helping them out, and I was like, hey, maybe that person didn't know. Sometimes you have
Mhm.
to come out and let people know, like, hey, this is what I need help with. Can you help? And then from there, then you can, determine whether they're there for you or not. Sometimes it's just that simple. And I had to learn that. I had to learn that myself. Um, you know, um, you know, going years and years in the business. And I had to learn like, oh, sometimes you gotta open up your mouth and ask people. So sometimes every now and then I might ask somebody, hey, can you share this for me? Or hey, can you, go check this out for me? Or hey, can you give me some feedback? Fill out this survey for me. Just different things that I may need them to do because they may not have thought to do. Because everybody living their life, everybody got their things, that they have going on, and that's the reality of it. We're all in this bubble together, and trying to figure it out for the most part.
Right,
So
right.
this is one of my. I think this is something I'm super curious about. As a beekeeper, what type of content are you working on? Do you create content, and if you do, like what type of what type of content do a beekeeper make?
Sure. So I would say that the content that I think about are usually questions that people ask me. A lot of the questions that if I'm at a stop or if I am somewhere in my beekeeper suit and somebody asks me, like, how do you know how many stings you can tolerate before you have a reaction to the venom? Stuff like that. I
Mm,
write those down. Or the things that I am curious about, I write those down. So, one of the things that I try to do with my Instagram is really brainstorm all of the different things that I might ask if I was new to gardening or small scale farming, new to beekeeping, or also just new to kind of doing what you can to help the environment thrive. And so the plan that I usually have in the summer, I'm a little more lax about this, but when it comes to posting different content on my Instagram, it is usually I decide by looking at how much activity there is on certain days. So if you have a business profile on Instagram, you can look at your dashboard and see if you post something on a Sunday night, you're not going to get as many views and likes as you would if you post it on, say, a Monday morning or like a Friday morning. So you have to
exactly.
look at where, like where are people's eyes, where are their clicks, that sort of thing. And so I had it pretty much regimented that, for this month, maybe I'll do a series on how I harvest honey. So I'll post on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I will post at 8 a.m. When I do that, that meant making a draft of whatever that reel might have been, and then just posting it that very next morning around that same time, and do it steadily because then I was able to kind of build up the number of followers I had because people knew my content would be there on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 a.m. in the morning. So yeah, I think that's kind of the thing is you got to do research with that too to figure out what is it that people are clicking on, like what are the top song clips I can add to reels to get people to look, like what's the interesting thing, but also you have to blend that all together with a piece of you. So it's like all of the content on my Instagram, I try to be sure that like it's never too um, stale or objective. I want you to be able to see, or at least observe kind of the passion I have for what I do in my posts. So,
Marketing 101. She just dropped some jewels. Marketing 101. I love it. I love it. I love it. And it's so crazy how many hats you have to wear. When you're just building anything. These are the same things that just hearing you talk. These are the same things I have to do. Any other business have to do. No matter what the product is, no matter what the background is, these are all of the different things when it comes to market research, when it comes to planning things out, when it comes to figuring out who is your target audience and what they like to do. When are they, tapping in with you guys, building a community around what you're doing. I love what you're doing, far as with the strategy of asking questions and posting the different questions. Educating your community is super super important. We do something similar where we post different motivational quotes and different tricks and tips and different things of that nature on our Instagram as well, just to keep our community involved. Make sure that people are waking up with a business mindset as much as possible. So I love that you're doing that, and I love how things come full circle. These are the things that we talk about all the time. So to hear different people come on from different backgrounds that don't even know each other to speak the same thing, because I can sit up here and host a seminar and go through these different steps all day till I'm blue in the face. I have and people can hear it from my mouth, but it's super important to hear it from different people in different backgrounds from different states, different countries come together and really just talk about the same thing. And you see the common denominator, and we're seeing the results, we're seeing the growth. I get people all the time. We don't have, of course, a million viewers, but I get people all the time that do tap in. That let us know how much these different gyms help them out. And sometimes you just need that confirmation. Sometimes you're doing all of this. Sometimes you just
Yeah.
information and hear it from somebody else and be like, "Oh man, I'm not the only one that's pulling my hair out." Okay, so and they give you that boost. So that's what we want to do. If we can boost and touch that just one person on these lives, like we really won. So we've been doing some wonderful things, and again, shout out to everybody that's been tapping in with us and supporting our community and joining our community, being a part of it. So many different pieces when it comes to building something. So speaking of that, I want to touch on one last question, and I want to touch on mindset. This is something that's super important to us in our community. What mental shift helped you level up in your business, and how did you stay motivated through the tough days?
I think, well, I mean, that's a great question. I think that most people will say that if you're a beekeeper, you're somewhat like a farmer who's absolutely crazy. So I think that like, that dogged persistence, right? It's more like, okay, this isn't working now, but that doesn't mean it won't work in the future. This doesn't, just because this is somebody else's definition of success, is it success for me? So
Yes.
it is really, I think, kind of changing your mind around what is success. And for me, it wasn't like I'm going to have X amount of hives and I'm going to sell in the local grocery stores. It was like, what is incremental success? Meaning, where do I want to be in 6 months? The nature of beekeeping is very much one where you have to be very patient. When you start a hive, that hive is not likely to produce honey until its second year. So you have to make sure that they stay healthy for a whole year and
Right.
get through pretty tough winters, and sometimes tough summers because it's the heat isn't easy on them either.
Mm,
To be sure that that investment is there. So it's being able to say to yourself, if this is important to me, what will I do to make sure that this, continues to be important, that it becomes fruitful? And so, yeah, there's been times where I get a call for somebody to come and say, "Hey, can you get this swarm off of my car?" That's right. They are my babies. I saw somebody put that in the chat. And I'm like, it's 100 degrees outside. It's 8 o'clock at night. I don't want to do it. But I also think like I do want to do this, right? Like I do because this is part of it. Just because I didn't account for success or fulfillment, looking like, you know, the one time I had to get up on somebody's roof and get a swarm of bees out from behind their bricks. I never anticipated that, but and I didn't think I could do it, but once I was done, I was like, okay, that happened. I didn't expect that from myself. And, I didn't doubt myself either when that challenge arose. I was like, yes, I can do it. Yes, here's the estimate and the quote. And the folks were like, absolutely, please get these bees out of here
I love
like
it.
now. So it's really deciding. You have to decide, like, what will you do to invest in your own success and your own source of fulfillment? And it's also deciding what success means to you. Because, it might be, like I said, it might be somebody's dream of success to have, thousands of hives that they put on a tractor trailer and they pollinate the almond crop in California every year. You could make a lot of money doing that, but it's very hard on the bees, it's very hard on you, and it costs a lot just to like get into that game. That's another thing too, is that you have to look at the risk and say, how much risk am I willing to accept? I am not willing to accept losing bees because you can truck them to a different place in the country. What's to say that they're going to make it? What's to say that you don't have the problems that a lot of beekeepers in that area have, which is that there's theft of beehives. You probably also don't have this issue where there's so many bees in one area that they can get sick, they can die, and it's really devastating because it takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, and it's not a cheap profession hobby. So
Right.
yeah.
I love that. I love that. It's a science behind everything, and I think I'm so I love science. I love STEM. I think that's super dope. I definitely want you to be a part of our STEM programs when we get those off the ground as well. I think that's definitely something that would be right up your alley, and I think you'll be great at that. And yeah, man, I think everybody is just. I definitely got some people that I want to. Um, really introduce you to. Actually, one of them was actually on. Shout out to CC from the Natural Way 365. That's actually one of the farmers as well that we work with down in Georgia. Um, and she's definitely passionate. She's the real deal for sure. Passionate about what she do. I got my other sister Sage. Shout out to Sage, Lady for Lydia. We had her on my other webinar Monday. We got some great things that we about to be doing as well. And yeah, man. So we got a lot of things to talk about. I definitely want to set up a call sometime this week. I'm gonna have Chris reach out to you and we set that up. Real quick, let the people know where they can find you and what you have coming up next and how they can get involved.
Certainly. So you can find me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Jubilee Beekeeping. Um, I would say that's probably the best place to reach me. Currently, it's easy for me to just manage one platform and not several others. But yeah, if you have questions, if you are interested in getting started in keeping bees, if you're looking for kind of an honest perspective on the ups and downs of doing it, certainly message me there. And I'm happy to get back with you and answer any questions that you've got.
Yes, man. Real quick, give the mob a quick shout out.
Yes, well, thank you for everyone joining today. Really happy to be here, mastering our business, and grateful to both Christy and Delano for the opportunity. It was really a pleasure.
We're gonna continue on working, Queen. I appreciate you. We got to continue on building, continue on working, and that's what we got to do in our community: lift each other up, continue on building each other up. We all got some superpowers, some things that we want to, really build, and we all got some value to really uphold. So I want to continue on, really just making sure that we uphold the best value as possible. And all hands on deck. It's not about these dividing principles that we have in our lives. But being all hands on deck and making sure that we can help each other out, making sure that we all have something of value that we can put out there in the community and make ourselves better at the end of the day. I love bragging on my people. I love bragging on our community, our members, our mentors, our advisors, the people that even people that I don't even know. I love seeing when people win, and we got to make that the norm and make that the new, So, real quick, I got to leave you guys with an assignment. You already know me. I love to leave you guys with the assignment. This month is month 7. This in module 7 is operations and logistics. So I want you guys to create a time. I want you guys to do a time audit challenge. I want you guys to conduct a time audit for 1 week. I want you guys to focus on your business related activities. I want you to identify areas where you could streamline processes, or delegate tasks, and reflect on any insights about time management. Remember, you guys, I want you guys to work smarter and not harder. Until next time, you guys, I'll see you guys next time. Again, man, shout out to all of our mod family, all of our members, all of our mentors and advisors. And shout out to you guys, everybody that tapped in live, whether you're on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Shout out to everybody, man. And make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe our platforms. Until next time, you guys, I'll talk to you later. Let's do it.